They say silence can hide the deepest wounds, but in one courtroom, silence finally shattered, and what came pouring out stunned an entire generation of Sister Wives fans. A mother stood up, not just for herself, not even just for her children, but for every person who's ever been told to keep quiet while watching others feast on what should have been shared. This wasn't petty. This wasn't drama for the sake of it. This was 10 years of betrayal etched into grocery lists, bank transfers, and cold, empty refrigerators. Hi friends, I'm Helena, and welcome back to TLC's Sister Wives News. Before we go any further, make sure you're subscribed because we're going deep into the real truth about what went down in court. Truth TLC didn't show us. Truth that left Christine standing tall and Robyn scrambling for excuses. And as always, I want to hear your opinions in the comments. Was justice finally served? Let's be clear. This isn't just about Christine and Robyn arguing over groceries. This is about 6 children who went to bed with enough rice and butter to stretch a week, while a few miles away, another pantry overflowed with almond chicken, boxed snacks, and name-brand vitamins paid for by the same account. And through it all, Kody Brown sat stiff at the back of the courtroom, arms crossed, lips sealed, printing the same silence that let this imbalance thrive for years. At the heart of it is Christine, strong, quiet, dismissed for most of her marriage. But inside those quiet years, she was documenting, noticing, hurting, and finally speaking. The courtroom heard her truth. The world did too. And what was uncovered wasn't just unfair, it was undeniable, deliberate, and devastating. Behind every transaction was a choice. Behind every empty fridge was a child being told, "Not this month." But now the hush has cracked open, and what spilled out changed the entire Brown family forever. Long before a courtroom gavel ever hit wood, the cracks were already forming in the foundation of the Brown family. Christine joined the plural marriage as wife number 3, full of faith, devotion, and genuine belief in the shared sisterhood they claimed as sacred. She wasn't naive. Christine signed up for a life that wouldn't be easy, but what she didn't sign up for was sacrifice without return, loyalty without honesty, and starving her kids while calling it God's plan. Back then, when the family was still tight-knit or pretending to be, the wives agreed on something they thought would keep things fair, a shared grocery fund. Simple idea. Every wife would contribute based on their household needs, the money would support all the kids, food would be split equitably, and no child, no matter which mother they came from, would be left hungry. To make this work, they needed one person to take the lead. On camera, in episodes TLC aired back in 2013 and 2015, Robyn presents herself as the one eager to help. "I've got the time," she said, smiling during a family sit-down. "I already do most of the online shopping, so I'll just handle the groceries too." And it was agreed. Robyn would be the household grocery coordinator. No drama, no pushback. Everyone trusted her. But behind the cameras, behind that soft-spoken act of generosity, was something far more self-serving. Because while Christine kept depositing her share every month into the joint account, what showed up wasn't food. It wasn't snacks. It was silence. For years, the other wives started noticing too, but nobody spoke up. Whether it was Kody's favoritism for Robyn or just plain avoiding conflict, Christine kept quiet. Not because she didn't see it, but because she believed in the pact. Trust takes time to build, but moments to break. And those moments kept piling up. While Robyn's home stayed stocked, while her kids never questioned what would be in their lunchboxes, Christine's family survived off frozen corn and toast. The money was pulled, but the meals, they never made it to her table. You want to talk about betrayal? That's where it started. Quiet, calculated, and for a long time, completely hidden. For years, Christine wore a smile that people mistook for peace. But behind closed doors, that smile was covering up a quiet kind of heartbreak. Imagine handing over hundreds of dollars each month, money that could have gone toward fresh food, milk, a full dinner, and then opening your fridge to see eggs, a stick of butter, and dry toast holding together another night's meal. That wasn't rare, that was her reality. You could see it on the show if you really looked, in the early Vegas seasons, then even more when they moved to Flagstaff. There'd be scenes at Christine's house where the kitchen looked emptier, the meals simpler. Meanwhile, flash over to Robyn's, and the contrast was loud. Her pantry full, her countertops decorated with variety, and her kids never left asking what's for dinner, because they already knew it would be there. But Christine didn't speak up. Not then. She was raised in this culture to keep sweet, to comply, to believe that patience and silence make you strong. She thought her role was to absorb the unfairness and keep the family glued together. Even when her daughter asked why the fridge was always empty, even when Christine called Robyn and heard excuses about why there'd be nothing this cycle, that pain built slowly. A woman like Christine doesn't scream, she endures. But every small betrayal, every box of Costco groceries that never came, every word like next time or sorry, my kids are picky, they stayed with her. And finally, instead of waiting for fairness, Christine started doing something that would change everything. She documented. She kept screenshots, bank receipts, delivery confirmations, photos. Every time she deposited her e-size of hair, every time it didn't come back in the form of food, meticulously, quietly, and heartbreakingly organized, not as revenge, but truth. Because when no one believes your story, the paper trail becomes your voice. Keeping those receipts was more than proof. It was an act of self-respect. This was Christine saying, I see what's happening, and I won't let you pretend it didn't. Years before a judge ever heard her speak, Christine was building a case, one withdrawal at a time. The courtroom was packed, not a seat left open, but the silence, it was suffocating. Not quiet in a polite way, but heavy, like the air was carrying the weight of 10 years of pretending everything was fine. Producers from TLC sat stiff and still. Reporters barely blinked. And Christine? She stood up like she had nothing left to lose, and everything to finally say. She didn't raise her voice at first. She didn't need to. For more than 10 years, I put money into a shared grocery fund, she began. I thought it was for all of us, every wife, every child. And then she paused. That kind of pause that makes people lean forward. But it was a lie. Heads turned, murmurs broke out. Then came the evidence. Years of bank records, Venmo transfers, line-by-line breakdowns, large amounts sent by Christine to Robyn week after week, month after month. But out of 128 documented deliveries in nearly a decade, only 7 made it to Christine's door. The photo spoke louder than any argument. Robyn's pantry, full shelves, snacks neatly stored in bins, organic everything. Christine's fridge, half a stick of butter, a few eggs, one lonely bottle of ketchup. She kept going. My daughter Isabel was crying one night. We had peanut butter and eggs left in the fridge. That's it. I called Robyn, told her we were short, and you know what she said? She couldn't redirect anything. Her kids were picky eaters. Those words, picky eaters, echoed in the room like a slap. Then came Gwendolyn. No makeup, no need for theatrics, just pain. Raw and measured. I used to think we were poor, she said. We had dinner, sure, but they were stretched. Rice, toast. That's what I grew up on. Then I'd babysit at Robyn's, and it was like walking into a mini Walmart. Everything was stocked. And all I could think was, why? When we asked for snacks, she'd say, those are for my kids. No one spoke. Christine didn't cry as Gwendolyn talked. She just sat still, calm, like truth was a thing holding her together after all these years. Robyn by then was pale, shaking, clutching a tissue tight in both hands. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, she whispered. And Kody? Arms crossed, eyes on the floor, not a single word from him. Still, his silence couldn't protect Robyn anymore, and it couldn't erase what everyone had just heard. When the jury filed back into that courtroom, you could feel the breath get knocked out of the room. All eyes were on them, faces serious, eyes cast low, holding the weight of a case that wasn't just about groceries. It was about being seen. The judge asked the foreperson if a unanimous verdict had been reached. She nodded, hands shaking slightly, as she passed over the envelope. The judge read silently for a moment. In the case of Brown versus Brown, he said, we rule in favor of the plaintiff, Christine Brown. No cheering, just a hush. And then an audible gasp from the gallery. Some wiped tears, some sat frozen. Gwendolyn buried her face in her hands. McKelty reached over and squeezed her mother's arm. Christine didn't cry. She didn't smirk. She closed her eyes, let out one slow exhale, and sat back in her chair. It wasn't satisfaction on her face. It was relief. Pure, quiet relief. Not for money, not for fame, for truth. The judge continued. Robyn would pay $32,000 in damages for the misused household funds, and she was required to submit a formal written apology to Christine and her children within 30 days. Public accountability, not a whisper behind closed doors. The reaction was immediate. Headlines flooded social media. Christine wins big. Robyn misused shared grocery fund. TLC sister wife's courtroom bombshell. And 32K verdict exposes favoritism behind the scenes. Clips of Gwendolyn's testimony racked up millions of views. Fans flooded forums calling it the result of a decade of gaslighting crumbling in real time. Christine's dignity became a symbol. Not rage, not revenge, but truth with composure. Robyn's apology felt like too little too late. Even Kody, who had weathered Van backlash before, couldn't hide in the shadows this time. His silence now looked like complicity. Christine may have walked into court alone, but when the verdict was read, it was clear she wasn't standing alone anymore. Just days after the courtroom dust settled, Christine posted a photo that said more than any press conference ever could. It was simple. Her kids around the dinner table, laughing mid-meal, surrounded by real food, full plates, fresh fruit, bread she didn't have to bake from scratch. And the caption, "This time, we eat first." That one sentence hit harder than any verdict, because it marked the end of silent sacrifice and the beginning of something she had waited a lifetime for: fairness. Robyn disappeared from the spotlight. No film confessionals, no lengthy social media posts. Just a court-ordered apology letter that felt weighted down by obligation, not remorse. Her public image took a major hit. Viewers who once gave her the benefit of the doubt were now questioning everything. And Kody? He stayed mostly mute. Online, fans didn't hold back. The man who once stood front and center as the family's so-called leader now looked powerless, complicit, and absent when it mattered most. Meanwhile, Christine wasn't done. She started appearing on podcasts, not to gossip, but to speak, to testify in her own way for any woman who ever poured into a household that never poured back. She spoke about emotional labor, financial control, and what it means to be ignored inside your own home. Not vindictive, not bitter, just firm. A woman who finally heard herself. Her upcoming book isn't just a tell-all, it's a how-to. A story of surviving injustice while still raising kind, strong kids. Of reclaiming space even after being made to think you don't deserve it. The working title says it all. More than enough. Because Christine always was. And now, the world sees it too. Thank you for watching this breakdown with me. I'm Yelena, and this is TLC's Sister Wives News. I want to know, did you feel that justice was truly served? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We've got more truths to unpack, more stories to honor, and more voices finally rising.